Good morning class, my name is Ariana Garcia and today I'm going to deliver the final video presentation from this course. The topic that I chose for my presentation is anorexia nervosa. I mainly chose this topic because it is affecting many people worldwide and mainly teenagers and young adults, so I think it's very important to know about this illness and how is it treated both physically and psychologically. So, to start off, I would like to say a little introduction about anorexia nervosa. This is an eating disorder in which patients will eat very little amounts of food. Therefore, they have an unhealthy weight loss, and they become very underweight or thin. Therefore, it is very important to know the symptoms of anorexia because maybe we know someone suffering from this and we can help. First, we have the persistent restriction of energy intake leading to low body weight. This is because, as we know, the normal healthy food have the nutrients we need in order to maintain ourselves normally and work properly. Therefore, if we do not consume them in the good amount, we will feel more tired and we cannot do our normal activities that we usually do. Second of all, these patients will have intense fear of gaining weight and becoming fat. Most times, they will look at themselves for hours and hours, feeling fat or picturing themselves as overweight, whereas it's the total opposite because they are not eating the normal amount of food that we need in order to survive. And finally, they have disturbance in the way that they look and they are not happy with their body. Nowadays, even with social media, many girls and boys all around the world are constantly looking at Instagram in their phones and looking at unrealistic pictures of models, and they would like to look at them, but as we know, it is not real at all, and that will most likely lead to an eating disorder, which is the most famous is anorexia nervosa. So I made this example in which I explained the male to female ratio of this illness, which is anorexia nervosa. This represents how out of 10 girls that suffer from anorexia, only one boy does. And this is because, as I mentioned before, nowadays we have plenty of social media like TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, in which many girls compare themselves to models or just people who tend to edit themselves into the perfect body shape. And that can lead to feeling bad about ourselves and developing an eating disorder that will most likely affect us in a more deeper way. I also made this mind map about the etiologies of anorexia nervosa. When I mean etiologies, is the origin of the illness. So first, I have the social etiology, which is glorifying the idea of being skinny. Most people want to be skinny even to the extent it is not healthy anymore. They would like to be shown their ribs or like their bones, which is the opposite of healthy. Second of all, we have the biological etiology, which is starvation, adapting response to stress. Many university, college, or even school students suffer from a lot of stress, academical, both personal and interpersonal stress. Therefore, they may say that they do not have enough time to eat, or they are so stressed that they even forgot about eating properly. Therefore, they may develop anorexia nervosa. And the third of all is the cognitive etiology. They have the extreme need for self-control, meaning that they cannot measure the amount of food that they eat. Therefore, they will most likely eat just what they consider is appropriate, but most of the times it is not. It is little amounts of food that will not help them at all to have the energy that they need. When doing my research on this illness, I found it very interesting that we have a lot of treatments with the psychological aspect of this. First, we have the cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT. Then we have the family-based therapy, the interpersonal psychotherapy, also known as IPT, the dialectical behavioral therapy, also known as DBT, and finally the acceptance and committed therapy, also known as ACT. When researching about each one of them, I noticed that the one that I like the most is the family-based therapy. I find it very interesting and important because in some cases and some research studies, most of the people who suffer from this anorexia nervosa are teenage girls. So when a teenage girl is suffering from this, it's very likely that they have a sister or maybe a brother that is also suffering from this. And I found it that if in the family-based therapy, they help each one of the members of the family to know about their eating habits, maybe their experience day by day, if they have some family trauma, some childhood trauma. So it's very interesting because even if just one member of the family is suffering from this illness, they can help each other like the mom and the dad and other people in the family can help the person to get out of this problem and never enter it again. Or maybe generate habits in which all the family might just eat healthy and have a healthy lifestyle. And my second favorite treatment psychologically for this illness is the cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT. And the things they do in this therapy is first preventing relapse and mental illness. Because as I mentioned, one of the etiologies of this illness is basically psychologically, because comparing ourselves or fears of becoming overweight. So first they start with the origin of the problem and seeing what trauma they will have in order to erase it and create better eating habits. And then therefore they have resolving issues. Maybe they have a struggle right now or a problem, so it's very important that the professional therapists help them resolving their issues and managing emotions, which is something very challenging for us nowadays because we have many emotions that it is very difficult to control them. So these are the main topics that they have in this CBT therapy in order to erase this illness. Furthermore, we also have the interpersonal psychotherapy, or EPT. In this one, it is also just one-on-one therapy with the therapist and the patient suffering from anorexia nervosa. In here, they talk a lot about their problems and how they can solve their habits and behavior, just like a normal therapy, but most focused on the problem of the anorexia nervosa. They also have a scientific approach. They have a lot of case studies in order to support what they are living with the illness. And it is very important because this is a talk therapy. They have a bond between the client and the therapist. They have all the confidence in the world to talk about their deepest emotions and how to solve this eating disorder. Then we also have the DBT, or dialogical behavioral therapy. In here they have evidence based on therapy to help people with mental or eating disorders. See, this is not only for anorexia nervosa, it can also be for other eating disorders such as bulimia or even mental illnesses like depression or anxiety. In here it is a whole group of people, not just one-on-one conversation, in which they talk and have evidence-based therapists in which they can all have a healthier lifestyle. Therefore, they have management of their symptoms in terms of relationships. They can all agree of the same symptoms that they have, talk about them, talk about their emotions, and possible ways in order to become the best version of themselves. And this can also help the person to have new eating habits. As I mentioned, it is not only anorexia, they can have another eating disorders, but they as a whole group can create better eating habits in order for them to be more healthier. And lastly, the last method that I research about psychologically is the ACT, which means Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. In here, they have acceptance, values, and commitment. Of course, they have therapists here, but it is more just being yourself and finally accepting that you have an eating disorder. That is not you looking at the mirror overweight, but realizing that you have a problem and you need to get a better lifestyle in order to go on. I really like this therapy as well because most people are afraid to be in a large group of people, such as the DBT, or they do not have the confidence enough to talk about their eating disorder with their family members. This is just you and your thoughts and trying to get better and have a better mental state and just a healthier life. To conclude my presentation, I like to do this research about the eating disorder of anorexia nervosa because we maybe have a loved one or someone we know that is suffering from this illness, and maybe we can help them now that we know the etiologies, the introduction of some psychological treatments for this eating disorder. Or maybe ourselves, maybe some of us are struggling right now, maybe in our past or our future, but we know that we have plenty of treatments and professional activities in order to be healthier. Out of all the eating disorders in the world, I think anorexia is the most interesting one because it is the most frequent one. We even have movies talking about the disorder because with the years it has been increasing a lot, even with social media, internet, and everything. So I think that we should know what it is about and how to prevent it and how to help the people that is suffering from this psychologically.